Major, let me ask you about this. Senator Cruz is still defending what some are calling dirty tactics during the Iowa caucuses on Monday. Here's what he said today.
What I would say is the information that was passed on by the political team was true and accurate, and it was relevant to the election. It was, in fact, what Dr. Carson did. He didn't come to New Hampshire. He didn't come to South Carolina. He got on a plane and went to Florida. And that was publicly reported. Now, listen, Ben Carson is a good and honorable man. He's a decent man. He's someone I like and respect. But in the political process, the voters are entitled to know the truth of what is occurring. And when breaking news was reported that was true and accurate, it was part of the democratic process to pass on things that are true and accurate.
Let me just ask you about that. Is there the potential there for what happened in Iowa with respect to the Ben Carson campaign to be harmful to Senator Cruz?
It's possible. If voters look at Ted Cruz, and say your treatment of this ambiguity about what Ben Carson was or wasn't going to do after the Iowa caucuses stinks. Does it smell of really nasty, dirty politics, the kind of politics Republican voters are uncomfortable with? We don't know yet. That is probably going to come up in the Saturday debate here in New Hampshire, and it might be a part of the conversation all the way up to Tuesday's primary. There are a lot of issues to unpack here. Let me try to do them very briefly. Ben Carson did make it clear that he was going to go home and not go to New Hampshire or South Carolina. The Cruz campaign seized on that as possibly a signal that he was dropping out of the race. And some of his political operatives called to various caucus sites around Iowa and said, hey, let those people know that Carson's out. And they did not correct the information when it became clear to them that Carson wasn't out. He was just taking a day off the campaign trail. Now, in the history of dirty politics in America, that's pretty low-level stuff. But it's still a little on the aggressive side. And what the Cruz campaign is already getting a reputation for is very tough, hardball, aggressive tactics on the ground. And if Republican voters are uncomfortable with that, that may come back to haunt them. Now, I will tell you there's another side to this story. Ben Carson's top advisors told me today that since all this happened, something important for their campaign has transpired. What is that? For the first time since November, they're raising real money. Why? Because Ben Carson has now become a sympathetic figure. That money is vital to Ben Carson's ability to carry on in this campaign because campaign funds were running so low that they had to fire 50 paid staffers today just to keep afloat. Here's another angle to this. Every time Donald Trump talks about this issue, it gains what? Publicity. Publicity that does what? Send more money to the Carson campaign. Now, what might that all be about? Who benefits more from having Ben Carson still in this race than Donald Trump? Answer, no one. Why? Because in South Carolina and on the March 1st primaries, many of which are in the South, evangelical Christians and social conservatives will be voting. If Ben Carson is still in the race, he will siphon some votes from Ted Cruz. Who benefits from that? Donald Trump. So every time Trump talks about this issue, he's not just knocking Cruz, he's helping Carson, which also helps Trump. That, in America, is how the political game is played.
Absolutely, Major. Great dissection of that. Let me ask you about Senator Marco Rubio. Now in second place in New Hampshire polling, he's fighting Kasich, Christie, Bush for this establishment mantle. Is New Hampshire really the last chance for these others to take on Marco Rubio?
It quite possibly could be. And what's interesting now, it's only one poll. Let's be careful about one poll in a campaign season, but it does show, and this survey was taken half before the Iowa caucuses and half after. So it even captured some of the surge that Rubio was getting in the Iowa caucuses before anyone even voted. And it does indicate more movement for Rubio than anyone else in the field. And that's significant. If Rubio keeps that momentum going and finishes a strong second here, then Jeb Bush, John Kasich, and especially Chris Christie are going to have some really tough decisions to make. Of those three, Jeb Bush clearly can go on. Why? Because he has the campaign dollars to do so, and he has a huge, well-funded super PAC to keep him afloat. Chris Christie and John Kasich are essentially campaigning on fumes. They have very few resources left, and if they don't perform well in New Hampshire, new money is not going to arrive, and they're going to have to close up shop. So, second and third are absolutely vital to the prospects of Chris Christie and John Kasich. And if Rubio comes in a strong second and there's a great deal of distance between him and Jeb Bush, it could effectively be over for the former Florida governor as well.
All right. Major Garrett in New Hampshire for us. Major, thank you.
Sure.